Hello, I would like to talk about this book, Passing, which I just finished. And I don't have the book with me, unfortunately, but this is what my cover looked like. It's a thin little book, it's only 98 pages. And of course, you could just read it in one sitting, but it took me like 5 different sittings to read it because I just didn't have the patience to like sit and just read it. But if you haven't read this book, I'm gonna give spoilers. So first, I would like to say that Claire and Irene's relationship is so strange, but it's also so compelling because Claire has this like sucking like hold on Irene that is actually quite startling and creepy. Like, I think Claire was like the creepiest person at the beginning. I'm like, why is she always smiling, and like, why does she always look like she got a secret and stuff? And I was like team Irene like all the way. I was like, no, like this woman has to go. And it was like every time Irene wanted to kind of stand her ground and be like, I'm not gonna talk to Claire, I'm not gonna answer her messages, I'm not. And as soon as she would get into contact with her, it'd be like she was like hypnotized. And I think low-key Irene secretly wanted to like be Claire, or like she wanted to pass like Claire, but like she either, that's just not how her life worked out. Like, she got with a doctor and he was black and she was able to live comfortably, and she just like has this overt way of like, you know, discounting Claire, like, oh, she's horrible, like, why would she do that? But I'm like thinking in my head, like, Irene, you would do it too, because she does it when she goes to restaurants and things like that. So I thought that was interesting. I loved how, first of all, I love the writing in this book. There were so many words that I was like Googling. I had my iPad like on standby, like Googling words, just because there were so many words that I just did not know. And I think, if this is how people used to talk, why don't we talk like this anymore? Because books do not sound so intelligent anymore. I just think, you know, whoever this woman Nella Larson is had to be extremely intelligent. And I love that she gave us such a, I don't know, for lack of a better term, but an in-depth look at passing and the consequences and the patterns of what can happen in your relationships. And not even if you're passing, but like if you're friends with somebody that's passing and you're in on their secret, that's going to affect your life too. And I just feel grateful that we don't have to do that anymore. I mean, I would never do that because I can't pass, but it's amazing to me how people could, and they use that opportunity to actually better their lives, but like at what cost? Because we see that Claire was just like, I need to be around the Negroes, I need to be around the black people. Like, she really wants to be around black people. Okay, so let's get into Irene and her husband, Brian. Okay, I did not like Brian. He was fake. They was both fake. Irene and Brian was both fake, but like Brian was for real fake. But I understood like his yearning, like he had this like inner wanting to leave the country, which being black in America is hard. So I understand that you want to leave the country, but Irene was like shutting it down. And I thought it was ironic that they kept saying that Claire has this having way about her, this having way. But I'm like, Irene has a having way about her as well, because she wants to have peace, and she feels like the only way that she can get it is to have control over her husband and just her situation and the people around her. She wants to have control. She's very controlling. And I felt that bled into her and Brian's relationship as well. And just that moment where she kind of had that epiphany about the alleged, you know, if you haven't read the book, you read the book, don't listen. But that alleged affair, she was just like, oh my gosh, like, what's happening? And like broke down. But I couldn't even, I mean, I was mad at Brian. Like, why would you do that if he even did that? Because she didn't even have proof about that. But I'm like, she seemed very emotionally like a wall. Like, she was emotionally unavailable, just in the way that she spoke to her husband. Like, she would never just say how she felt. It felt like they were kind of dancing around each other in the way they talked. It didn't feel like they were really all that close. It seemed like she was just like, I just want to be a wife and take care of my kids. And like, and even the fact that she didn't even want to talk about lynching at the dinner table, And her husband was like, we need to talk about this. Our kids are black. And she's like, no, they don't need to know about this ever. Like, don't ever talk to them about lynching. It's like she's living in this world where she just desperately trying to fight adversity and trials when that's what life is. But anyway, this was a great 98 pages, y'all, and I'm like just talking about this book. But anyway, the end, y'all. What happened at the end? Like, that was crazy. She turned up. Nella Larson wrote an amazing story. She turned up at the end. Like, what do y'all think happened? I know what happened. I think that Irene did it, honestly. But at the same time, she says, I can't remember. Like, I don't really know clearly, like, what happened. But the fact that she was having thoughts about murder, and she got so irritated because Clare, look, just imagine that. Your white husband busts in this room with like a bunch of black people who all think you're white for the most part. Some of them know you're passing, or some of them don't really know. Your husband's so mad at you, and you're smiling with red lipstick on. She's just like, and that made Irene so mad that she stormed across the room, and then she was like laid a hand on her bare arm. And I just didn't get that too, because I'm like, if she really did do that, nobody saw that, but I guess not. And she got what she wanted. Irene is having to. So I think by the end, I was kind of like, Claire was growing on me. I was like, okay, Irene kind of getting on my nerves, because it's like she's just like Claire in a way. Like, she wants whatever she wants at all costs, like even if it entails something so horrible. And I thought it was rather sad and like disheartening that she was willing to go to the grave knowing that her husband was unfaithful to her, and she would rather have him and share him with Claire than to not have him at all. I didn't understand that, but I mean, that was a different time, so I don't know. But I just felt bad for these characters. I really felt bad for Irene. Claire was living her life. Claire was good. She didn't care. She was like, whatever, I'm having fun. I'm living the best of both worlds. But I would recommend this book. I think that you should definitely read it. I mean, everybody's going to have the same opinion about these characters. And if you read the book, let me know. I'm actually about to watch the movie. So I'm very excited, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about the movie and like compare it to the book. And so I'll probably be in a different setting, but I am so excited to watch this movie, y'all. So hi everyone. So I just finished watching this, Passing, for the second time. The first time I appreciated it and I thought it was really on point with the book. I'm like, wow, they followed this to a T. Like, but watching it the second time, I noticed more differences, and I noticed little things that like maybe people caught it on the first side, but me, I would think I was a bit more observant the second time around because I wasn't as focused on the plot. I was more focused on the details. So I have my notes over here. So if I'm looking over here, I'm looking at my notes, and I'm just excited to discuss this. So first of all, can we say that in the 1920s, black people was having a lot of fun? I feel like we have fun now, but to be that classy, like those outfits, I really wish we had kind of held on to that. But I feel this is a tangent, but like with women nowadays, we work, we do other things, and women don't have time to be getting all dressed up and dolled up and taking care of the house and the kids and all of that. So I think that's why we don't dress like that anymore. But I love the fashion. I love the fact that it was in black and white, which you would think that would make it dry and boring. No, this movie was captivating. It kept your attention. You could not look away. And even my boyfriend, y'all, he falls asleep so quick. I could put anything on the TV. It could be the most interesting like thing ever. I've had him watch Tiger King. He falls asleep. This Passing, he actually stayed up. Like, I was looking at him like, wow, you're awake? He's like, yeah. I'm like, wow, you're actually watching this. So that can tell you, like, if he was watching it, that means it was good. And it was in black and white. So another thing I love is the piano. If you peep, like, the opening, like, before the scenes, they would, like, show the trees or the brownstones, and they'd, like, be playing some classic jazzy piano tune. I loved it. I loved it. All the different scenery. Like, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but there was a scene where Claire, she was like stretching like outside, and it just looks so gorgeous. I'm like, this is, and it's in black and white. The brownstones, we love that. And so my favorite scene was this scene in the beginning where Irene and Claire had that stare down. Can we say perfect? Claire's facial expressions, I can't even mock it. She's just like I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not as dope as her, but her facial expressions and just like the way she nailed every single, like her face, like it was like all of her emotions, boom, are like on her face. Whenever she felt scared, confused, you just and then in contrast, Irene, what the heck was she thinking? You couldn't even tell what Irene was thinking, which I think if you didn't read the book and you just watched this movie, you were probably very confused. And I can see how people were getting different ideas about how Irene was feeling, because I feel like the director left that up to interpretation. But because I read the book, I understand how she felt and I understand what her thoughts were. But a lot of people were speculating like different ideas, which I'll get into. And I would like to say I did not like that scene where they were up in the suite and the husband walked in. He's like, Nick. I didn't like that. I was like, ugh, it was so cringe. Like, I couldn't stand him. I was just like, get this scene over with. Even the second time I watched it, I was just like, ugh. Her laughing was super awkward. Like, there's people that really love that scene, and I'm like, no, get this scene away. I don't like this scene. And I thought it was interesting how as soon as she went home, I noticed the second time around, she kissed her husband with this like longing. And I think what that was doing was showing us that Irene is unsatisfied. Like, she met Claire and she's unsatisfied. She figures she's unsatisfied now, even though she's telling Claire, well, I have everything I've ever wanted. Like, why would I pass? Like, I don't need to do that. But then seeing her with her husband kind of made her feel like, man, did I make the right decision? Should I have like lived a different life? Or that's one perspective, like, should I have passed for white? Or she could be asking, am I happy? Like, because Claire is so free and she's so fun and vibrant, am I happy being a shadow of myself? Which is what I saw Irene as. She's just a shadow. Like, she's just like who is this woman? Like, she doesn't even know who she is. She acts so different. Every single person she's around, she's so rigid and bossy. I'm like, ugh. Like, I don't like her. I'm team Claire. I like Claire. I would want to be Claire's friend, honestly. Like, she's so cool. I would like to say that I think that I didn't get any attraction the first time I watched it between Claire and Irene. It was some stuff that was like, okay, like when they held the hands, or there was like a flirty scene like when they were outside, and I was like, okay. But then at the same time, I thought second time around that maybe Irene has feelings for Claire, but Claire does not have feelings for Irene, because Claire did say some flirty stuff and she was doing some things like looking at her mouth when she talked and things like that. But I just feel like Claire is just a flirty girl. She is a fun, she was flirting with everybody. Every single party they went to, she was with talking to another dude every time you looked up, you know, and she was just charismatic. And I think that Irene kind of took that the wrong way. And so when the question came into play whether her husband was cheating, which I don't think he was, but I'll say why. But when that came into play, was she mad? And like, obviously she had some type of jealousy, but like, was she jealous of her husband? Or was she jealous of Claire? Like, who did she want? Like, did she want her husband? Did she want Claire? Did she want both? Like, I think that was like the question when I watched it the second time. I'm like, hold on, like, but in the book, I will say in the book, she was not having feelings for Claire. She couldn't stand Claire, but the movie kind of suggested that they had some type of feelings for each other. And I watched an interview with the director, and she was saying that Nella Larson didn't really have the space and the opportunity to write that narrative of like that attraction between the two women, so she decided to do that. But I didn't feel like that was needed. Like, all those scenes, like, I feel like it honestly might have been more interesting if it was just plain rage and jealousy and envy. But that's just my opinion. I mean, actually, maybe not, because it does raise more conversation and more questions. So there were so many little things in this movie that, I mean, you can't watch this movie one time. If you watched it one time, I'm gonna need you to watch it again, because you're gonna pick up on more things that I'm gonna say in this video, and you gotta leave a comment, or you gotta leave a comment somewhere and just say what you picked up on, because it's so interesting. But couple things that I picked up on is, remember the scene where they were getting ready to go to the party, to the dance, and Irene was coming down the stairs and she's like swiping the railing, and then she comes down and she looks in the reflection, right? And Brian and Irene are like this up on each other, talking, like they're super close, but then when she sees them in real time, or like real life, they're far apart. That played a mind trick on me the first time I watched it, because I'm like, oh, they're flirting. But then I watched it the second time, I'm like, they're not flirting. I'm like, they're just talking. And then you listen, because I had the captions on, you listen to what they're saying. It's very mundane conversation. They're not talking about anything inappropriate, talking about his work. So I think that was meant to put in your mind, like get kind of where her head was, right? I think they were trying to find creative ways to get you in Irene's head without explicitly telling you how she felt. And so that was so good. I love that. And there was another scene when they were sitting outside, and notice this the second time, she put her jacket over Claire's feet. And I was like, that was nice. Like, did she do that? Why though? And then she was like this after. She was like shivering. So that's small, but it's like, okay, I think Irene does like Claire. I think she does have feelings for her. And also, Claire is very, we already said she's fun, she's vibrant, but she's also either very sensitive and fragile, or she's very manipulative. One of the two, right? Because it seems as though every time she cries in front of Irene feels bad and breaks down. And that's everybody, right? When you see tears, you don't know what to do. You're just like, oh, you're crying, I'm sorry, But I felt as though her personality was so multifaceted, right? So you have the side that is sensual and alluring, and then you have the side that is very sensitive and very fragile. It's like she has so many aspects of herself that were quite attractive, right? Not just her looks, but also her personality was very compelling and just very attractive. Whereas Irene, in my opinion, was very dull. I thought she was dull and dry. And it was just that contrast. Like, you have this one lady. So I think the question that raises for me with this whole movie, and there's so much to say, like I could say so much about this, but I think the main question for me and what I got out of it is, whose life would you rather have, right? Like, would you rather have a life where you are lying, Claire, and passing for white, but she's unsatisfied because she wants to be near her Black roots and things like that, but she's also having a good time, like, and I can imagine even before she got in with the Black people, she was probably just living her life, having a great time, just enjoying life, being happy, impressing people, being a stunner. And then you have Irene, who's just as beautiful. Like, that doesn't have anything to do with it, right? Looks, no. She's married to a doctor, so she has money as well. She's elite. She's in this good society, but she is very controlling. I said that about the book. Like, Irene is very controlling, but like, whose life would you prefer? And it makes you think about happiness. Happiness is not dependent upon your circumstances. It's really dependent upon how you approach your circumstances, right? So you would think that Claire would be the more unhappy one, but she's not. She's the happier one, right? But the way she looks at life and her personality, I would rather have Claire's life, because Irene was sleeping all day and popping pills, and her kids was disrespecting her. That was another thing. I'm like, I don't remember that in the book, like, but in the book, I don't remember the kids being so disrespectful. Like, they were just like, what, mom, dang, like, I'm like, what? They were so disrespectful. She's like, go to the kitchen with your brother and get him something to eat. He's like, psh. I mean, I get it though. He had a hard day, but I thought that was really funny how they were like, Claire? They were running out. I was like, Claire? Oh, Mom, you about to go to bed? I'm like, wow, this is how y'all do y'all mama? But I mean, I just really didn't like Irene in this movie because I was just like, she was mean to the maid, Zoo. I'm like, Zoo is so cool. You know, she cooking, she doing everything. She cooking, she cleaning, she taking care of your kids, and you just coming in whenever you want to, sniffing around like, you clean them kids' rooms? Ugh, I couldn't. Ugh. I mean, I guess I could be a maid, but it's like I wouldn't want to be a maid. Okay. So we got through all of this. I wanted to talk about Hugh, but I'm not going to really talk about Hugh. I did appreciate Hugh and his role, but I'm still kind of working out what was his purpose in this movie and like what was he supposed to show us. Besides, one thing that he did show us is Irene's personality, because she didn't open up to nobody but Hugh. You didn't see her personality at all except through Hugh, so that was nice. Do you guys think Brian was cheating? Like I said, I don't believe Brian was cheating. I didn't love Brian as a character. I think that another difference between the book and the movie is that in the book, it wasn't as much dialogue between them. There wasn't as much love between them. There wasn't as much animosity either. In the movie, you could kind of see all of that play out on screen, which was nice. Another thing, let me see. Yeah, so in the book, I could really understand, like when I was reading the book, I could understand why Irene didn't like Claire. It made sense to me. I'm like, I wouldn't like her either. She's just butting in my life. But watching the movie and seeing it on screen, I was like, what is Irene's problem? Like, what's the big deal? Like, I'm ever thinking this, like, I don't get it. Like, Claire is cool. Like, she's really cool. I would want to hang out with her. And then, okay. Let's get to the ending, okay? Let's talk about the ending. And I want to tell you watched the movie, so I want to tell you how it went in the book versus how it went in the movie, which it was, the first time I watched it, I didn't even notice any difference, but then I had to think about it, and I was like, wait a minute, this is different, right? So you know what happened in the movie? So in the movie, she ran into Mr. Baloo. She was running. She was walking really fast, like trying to get home, and then she stopped. And then the snow like fell on her face, and it was almost like she just had this calming peace, right? But then she like went into the house, went to the phone, couldn't get to Claire, and then decided, you know what, I'm not saying anything. And then, you know, chain of events, he found out, etc., etc., etc. Now in the book, what happened was she was contemplating exposing Claire. She was going to expose Claire because she felt like if I expose Claire and I somehow let her husband know that she's a liar, Claire will leave my life and I'll be free. And so she was contemplating how she was going to do it. As she's thinking about all this, she's walking downtown with her friend, boom, runs into him. So she doesn't even have to do anything. All she does is just run into him. So after that happened, she's like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even have to do nothing. Like, this is great. He found out. She's going to be gone. But then she thought about it again and she was like, oh my gosh, if he finds out, he's going to leave her. And then she's going to move to Harlem, right? That's what happened in the book. She was already contemplating it before she ran into Mr. Baloo. Well, she might have been in the movie too. We just couldn't read her mind in the movie. So she might have already been contemplating that. And so then when she asked her in the movie, I thought that was great timing. I love that scene too, when she said, have you ever thought about what you would do, like if your husband find out? And then her little look, she's like, like, she's just like, yeah, I have. It's like, so what would you do? Oh, I'd move here with you, and I would love to move here with you. And she's like, oh, no. So in the movie, in the ending scene, Claire and Irene are by the window. Mr. Baloo storms in, calls her a liar. In the book, it was a racial slur. And in the book, they were trying to fight him. All them black people were trying to fight him. It was more dramatic in the book. Like, Felice got in between them and was like, you're the only white man here. You might want to chill on the racial slurs and the, you know, coming at women and stuff like that. And so in the book, she backed up and got scared, but she had like a little smile on her face, right? And Irene, in the book, Irene was across the room. And Irene saw the little smile on her face when her husband came in, and it made Irene so mad. Irene stormed across the room, but she put her hand on her. It didn't say she pushed her. It didn't say any of that. It just said she put her hand on her. and then she like fell out the window or something. Like it wasn't even clear. And then in the book, it was good because in the book and in the movie there is ambiguity. You don't know what the heck happened, and I don't know what happened. I can't land on it. I think Irene pushed her, but like I don't at the same time, because I feel like she didn't hate her enough to push her out a window. Maybe Claire just got scared and fell. I don't think she jumped. That's another theory. Like Claire jumped out the window. No, she didn't, because that's not Claire's personality. She didn't look scared of him. She didn't look bothered that he was at the door. Like she was like, get me a drink. Like she didn't even care he was at the door. So why would she jump out the window? So no. I think I don't know. I think she pushed her, but at the same time I'm like, I think it was a big accident. I don't know. I don't even think the characters knew. And I appreciated Irene's reaction as well. I like the gagging. It was so dramatic. And then at the end, you could see the relief on her face as she like sunk into her husband's arms, and like the tears. And he said, "I love you." He whispered that. And I can't even comment on that, because I want to understand what the "I love you" meant at the end. Like, I feel like it held more significance than what just meets the eyes, right? Like, I love you. Like, what? Obviously you love me. Why did you just say that? I don't know. I think it was really interesting. I love this movie. I'm probably gonna watch it again, and I know my boyfriend's gonna be like, can you please stop watching this movie? Like, this is dark, this is heavy. I loved it, and I really suggest that you go and read the book. Like, wait maybe like a few months and then go and read the book, and just tell me what you thought. Who would you rather be, right? Would you rather be Irene or Claire? I think I would rather have Irene's circumstances and have Claire's personality. So I think I hit everything, and I am done with this video. I loved it, y'all. Let me know what you think